Periscope. I'm going to paste this little tweet link in here. YouTube is a little bit later, but shout out to the people that are listening on the podcast and hearing everything that I've said. What an intro. What's up, everybody? November 11th, 11/11. Monday NBA slate, 6th gamer. Myself and Dave Locker are here to break it all down. And that's great that it's NBA, because if we were talking about NFL, we would both be talking about brutal beatings. I jinxed another guy. That went well. You got to love it, man. You got to love it. Lofty, what's up? How's your weekend?
Wish you didn't ask. No, it was tough, man. The last couple NFL weekends have been really solid. I don't know, dude. Yesterday was pretty rough.
Who killed you, or is the answer just everybody?
So, well, that's the thing. Like, you say like, I nailed a lot of the right plays. Well, we always do, right? Like, you always get some plays, right? If you have 150, I think I had 500 lineups across Draftkings. I'm going to get some plays right.
One would hope.
You would hope, right? And honestly, the late push helped me, like, dug me out of a hole. I still I'm still in that hole, but DJ Moore and Samarin Jones and Devontae Adams definitely lessened the blow.
Yeah.
But I went against my better judgment, went with David Montgomery, and that was rough.
Yep.
I took some shots on David Johnson, and like I look back, and I honestly just shouldn't have. But the truth is, when I went back and looked, the alternatives weren't that great. They were cheap, and they were sitting in a good spot with high totals. So, of course, not Montgomery, of course, but the lines flipped. They were 5-point favorites. You would think that he had 17 carries. So, no, there were a couple of those guys really hurt. I think there was one more. I can't remember. Oh, I think I had like 15% AJ Brown. That certainly didn't help when you have one reception on the day.
Yeah, that's not great. Saquon also not all that awesome.
Not a ton of Saquon just because of that price, but he was, man, he's not right.
No, not at all. I don't want to step too much on it. You'll be talking NFL about an hour and a half with Manny. No NBA lineup study right now. We're not updated yet for today. Usually a little bit of a lag on a Monday just because they got to process a ton of NFL contests from the night before. So not too much to touch on there. Let's see who popped off yesterday. Let me look back at my lineups. Did you play NBA last night?
No, usually don't play on because I have Awesome Radio, Sirius at 7. Yeah,
that'll do it. Trae Young looked good.
Played the Showdown slate, the 9:30 Showdown slate.
Good luck to you on that one. Jabari went for 60. Whew.
I know. Marcus All played like 33 minutes and had 12 fantasy points, so that was sweet.
And Chris Boucher played 24 minutes. I didn't expect those two guys to play 57 minutes together, unless you told me that they went to multiple overtimes, or Marcus All played 48 and he played 11.
Yeah, he crushed, dude.
Yeah.
In limited opportunity, Chris Boucher was really good.
We will get to that since they are up again today, but you want to pay close attention to the way that the rotation shook out for that game, because I get a sense that it's not going to look like that again today. But we will talk about that. He played like 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. They didn't play 3 guys that I would deem to be their closers, so gotta pay attention.
Well, Gasol was off the floor for a bunch in the fourth, right?
Pretty much all of it.
And he played, if I recall correctly, I haven't looked at Popcorn Machine. I think he played pretty much all of the third, or at least like 10 minutes of it.
You would be correct.
Okay. He looked terrible.
Yeah.
So, if like you said, if Gasol gets off to a good start, and doesn't look, he looked really, really bad.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, again, then you're probably going to see similar rotation. But I have a tough time believing that Gasol returned for 2 minutes in that game, 2.5 minutes.
Not much.
No, Boucher was just playing a lot better basketball. And if that's the case, he had 9 and 3 in the fourth quarter. You leave him on the floor. It's that simple.
Yeah, he played like a relatively normal rotation in that first and second quarter stretch. Didn't see the floor in the third, and then just went bananas in a fourth quarter run that like you don't typically expect to see. So,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. See, like this is where it was said Boucher is going to fill the Ibaka role, so you have to project similar rotation minutes. Just saying. Yeah, no, that's not at all how it happened. That's the thing.
Right.
He's not going to play 10 minutes in the fourth quarter with Marc Gasol and OG Anunoby and somebody else on the bench. Like I agree that he's going to have to fill an Ibaka-like role. He did not get minutes in that way in a typical rotation pattern.
No, of course not. And I wouldn't expect to see this going forward. Now, I do think you're going to get some decent minutes out of Boucher.
Mm-hmm.
The guy in the limited opportunities that he's had, he's played well.
Yeah.
So I don't have any reason to believe that he's not going to get some run.
No, and he's hella cheap on DraftKings too. So like I'm not trying to rain on the parade of Boucher, but the rotations for the Raptors were really weird. They played way more of guys you would not expect to be in closing lineups.
Right. So no, I think you're right. I think that the guy that commented in YouTube in the YouTube chat isn't wrong in that,
right.
He should get minutes.
Yeah.
It's just how is he going to get those minutes? You got to be careful about that because it really, let me put it to you this way, right? Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka, you know how many minutes they played together this year?
16.
Yeah, 15.
Wow.
Was that just a guess?
Yeah.
Was that just a guess?
It really was. I had no idea.
That's pretty incredible. Boucher actually played let's see. Look at his minutes alongside Gasol here.
He was the backup to OG Anunoby in the first quarter.
Right. So this is not the Ibaka role. He played about 3 minutes alongside Gasol in the first quarter. And then he played almost his entire second quarter. So 5, 6, 7 minutes with Gasol in the second quarter.
I mean, he was OG Anunoby's direct backup.
Correct. Yeah,
for all but like a minute and a half in the second quarter.
Well, and then the fourth quarter, and then the fourth quarter was Anunoby off. Yeah, so Anunoby was off, Gasol was off, and you basically ran the bench heavy up until there were 2 minutes left. Right. So yeah,
he's not going to play over OG Anunoby moving forward in the fourth quarter like that. You would not expect
totally
that.
Different role.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like I did not expect him to be OG's essentially direct backup.
No, and here's what I'd say. He played 5 tenths. Let's see. So he played 12 minutes in the first half. Right. So he was on pace to play those 24 minutes. However, the second half minutes looked nothing like the first half minutes. So maybe you could no, you're not going to project him for 24 because he closed out the first half.
I think 20 is likely.
Yeah, I'd give him 20. 22 is reasonable if he plays the same as his first half rotation without those closing 2.5 minutes.
I was going to say, OG picked up his third, so he came back out onto the floor. But I think that 10-minute stretch is the most likely scenario. Although he probably came on early for OG, too. He probably came on at the second foul that he picked up because you can see everybody else was still out there for another minute or two.
You know what? You're right. Good call. I didn't see that. I missed that.
8 and 8, 9 and 9 is going to be the more likely scenario, barring foul trouble.
I'd feel more comfortable at 16 seeing this.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Anunoby's third quarter rotation ran him all the way down to the 1.5 minute mark.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's who they want out there.
24 is a big stretch.
And then, they went on a hell of a run in the fourth quarter. No coaches are yanking people in the midst of a 9-0 run to like ice the game. So,
he's Alex the Great says Terrence Davis was more of OG's backup.
That's just not true at all.
No, what I mean, honestly, dude, you can look it up for yourself.
Yeah.
You can actually pull this up.
I have it on the screen right now in front of me.
You can see exactly when Boucher came in and when Anunoby went out.
Yep.
It
lines up exactly, except for a basically minute and a half to 2 minute stretch in the middle of the second quarter when they took Siakam out, since Siakam played the whole first fucking quarter.
Right.
Yeah. They're not going to be running out Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Terrence Davis, Boucher, Siakam, whoever for like large swaths of the fourth quarter moving forward.
Well, yeah, not to mention that and I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but I think on a slate like this, it's probably pretty important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boucher is not going to be like. I know.
Do you know why it's important? Do you know why it's important? Because he's projected for 54% ownership on DraftKings right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, he's like 3,200 or 3,400, so like for sure I understand that, but yeah.
Yeah, but what I was saying is, look at if you want to know if Terrence Davis was OG's, look at who was on the floor, and try and I know we play a lot of positionless basketball, but consider what positions these guys are playing.
Yeah.
I mean, you had what? Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, Chris Boucher, Pascal Siakam, and Marc Gasol on the floor.
Yeah. Terrence Davis played 3.5 minutes in the first half.
Right. Right.
They picked. Here's what it was. They were getting hammered early, and they're getting hammered at the half. They closed that gap at the end of the fourth quarter, which is generally speaking going to be the time where you have at the beginning of the fourth, you're going to have your second unit in, getting ready to give way to your starters. They went on a run. They went on a 9-0 run to start the fourth quarter, and they were rewarded with more playing time.
So Tim D makes a point, and I don't know if he's agreeing with us or disagreeing, but it actually doesn't matter. Toronto is injured. They're running a bunch of rookies to fill minutes right now. The rotation is going to be irregular. Precisely our point.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're saying. You're going to see irregular rotations. So to project Boucher for 24 minutes tonight would seem ill-advised.
Very much so, yes. And you have to think about what's still left. They're probably not dropping Fred VanVleet, Marc Gasol, Siakam, or OG Anunoby out of what you would normally think to be their closing lineup. So I would say one spot is up in the air. They could not close with Norm Powell and go with someone else, and I wouldn't be like super shocked by that. But those other four guys are like gonna be their closing four.
Right, and you're playing the second of a back-to-back. I would be curious to know, does Gasol get a little bit more limited minutes here?
Maybe.
It's hard to say. The only back-to-back they've played this season, he played 25 in the first leg and then 23 in the second. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But,
I mean, I can't imagine they want Gasol playing 19 minutes in the first half again.
Well, dude, that's what was wild about this. He didn't only play 19 in the first half. He ran he ran the third quarter down. He played 12 minutes in the third quarter. So, through three quarters, he'd played what, 31? I think it was 31 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. The dude was on pace to go over 40. They ran with the bench because look what look at the game flow. Look what Toronto's bench did in that fourth quarter. Easily their largest lead, pretty much their only lead outside of a small lead in the early second quarter. Their only lead came with the entire bench unit, save for Pascal Siakam on the floor.
They went on a 9-0 run in a minute and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's to
that
put them up by 10. It's.
Yeah. That's what happened, dude. In those stints, and that bench stint, Siakam had 7, Boucher had 9, Terrence Davis had 7, and Hollis Jefferson had 8. That's in one quarter these guys put up those numbers.
Yeah. And like Stanley Johnson and Rondae Hollis Jefferson were not even in the rotation before 2 days ago. So, you keep going to those guys if it's going well. Just be aware that right now we're projecting Chris Boucher to be in half of the lineups on DraftKings right now. And I understand why. And he's going to be a decent point per dollar play regardless. Even if you do think he is at the low end of minutes tonight. 100%
by the way,
still in play.
By the way, saddens me to see that Stanley Johnson is no longer a viable basketball player. I thought the Stanimal was going to be good when they grabbed him as the, I think, 7th overall pick in Detroit, but no longer the case, Josh. He's a bench warmer.
I don't know what to do with it. Were you really like a Stanley Johnson fan coming out?
I legitimately thought Stanley Johnson was going to be a decent player. Yeah.
I mean, so did I. He fits. He just can't shoot worth shit. But like he fits the modern game well on paper.
I thought he'd be a decent, I thought he'd be a starter, a quality wing. And then at times he flashed it, but he's not a bad defender. You're right though. When you literally cannot make anything in terms of offensive production.
The simulation says, I thought Stanley would be an NBA talent since Arizona. He's poo.
Dude, I couldn't have said it better myself.
There we go. Alrighty, guys. So we'd love to dig into some lineup study. We just don't have it right there. But we do have some things to talk about. Case in point, shout out to Yahoo Sports for being the presenting sponsor of this show. They're the presenting sponsor of this show, of the Deeper Dive, of the Early Bird podcast, which you could check out as well. Running the Baller contest every day. That is the name of their biggest contest, regardless of sport. So today for the NBA, they're running the 25K baller. There's 5K to first. Next week for the NFL, it's the 200K baller. They also have a 65K baller. That's a $25 entry fee. But if you use Emacs Cash Building Blocks article, which I'm dropping into chat right now, and use the promo code AWESOMO, there's a link at the top for you to figure out where you need to be. You can get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. I mean, that's 3 entries into the baller if you want it. You can do 1 entry into the 65K baller. You can, put 10 entries into the 15K guaranteed. Those are $3 to get in. Perfect. You have your 10 max in there. No fuss, no muss. You're going to pay less management fees for this site than you are largely across the industry. Probably going to see some softer competition. I like playing at Yahoo. It's really easy now that they have the CSV edit features. That's just kind of a no-brainer. You don't want to add extra time for nothing to people's work. So use the CSV features. Use our lineup. Well, use Fantasy Cruncher for it. No lineup builder, unfortunately. But yeah, if you're using Fantasy Cruncher, you can crunch out your lineups, export, import them right to Yahoo like every other site now, which is awesome. No more hand building. Love Yahoo. Shouts to them for being the sponsor. They've been the sponsor for a minute now.
By the way, you can hand build if you want to. Not everything's MMA.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of their contests are 10 max. You can build those individually.
Right. Some people enjoy that.
I like hand building as well. I don't like hand typing each lineup in.
That is the worst. It really is. But I enjoy sometimes, if you're playing some of these single entry contests, putting a lineup together that feels like it fits.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you get smoked. But at the time, what a feeling.
E-Rush says, are you guys going to do ownership projections for Yahoo? We already do. So there's that. But yeah, fun. Also, we've got a giveaway going on. This is in the NFL vein. Lofty will probably touch on this as well when he starts up with Manny. But if you want to get a 2019 NFL Awesemo Plus pass, head to awesemo_com. Check out the tweet. I've got it up on the screen right now. If you can pick the player that scores the most fantasy points in tonight's Seahawks-Niners game, you can win this giveaway. Just retweet, like, and reply. Follow awesemo_com in the Awesemo NFL Twitter account. And you've got a chance to win. Just drop your answer in as a reply. And I believe Brett just dropped that tweet into chat as well. So it's even easier for you guys.
And because we're awesome, the top Showdown plays for today are free.
They are free.
At awesemo.com for NFL. So
that's
get
not
in
all
that
that's
contest
free either.
And check out the Awesemo Top Showdown. No, they're not. Player projections for NHL and the NBA Deep Dive by Adam Scher. All of that free today. Good stuff, man.
It is good stuff. I gotta
good stuff.
Fix this. There we go. And enter. Now we're better. I think that's it. I think we're ready to dig into this. 6 games. So, we should be getting done the 6th game right at 10:59. So
yeah, 20 minutes later. I think we're ready to dig into this.
Well, look, we do tend to ramble a bit, but I think that the conversation that we had regarding rotations for the Raptors is very relevant. That's one of the more relevant things we've done.
Valuable stuff. I agree. I'd say on the season thus far, that's probably the most useful off the rails conversation we've had.
I agree. We had to get there eventually. It's only taken north of a year.
You know what, man? Baby steps.
Baby steps. Speaking of baby steps, someone took baby steps for this entire season so far, and now they're ready to make their debut. Pistons and Minnesota Timberwolves, 112.25 implied total for the Pistons, 110.75 for the Wolves. Welcome back, Blake Griffin.
Not really. I'm not welcoming him back. I enjoyed Andre Drummond without Blake Griffin.
I'm sure Andre Drummond did too.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Derrick Rose, questionable. Tim Frazier, probable. I think that's kind of the biggest news on the slate. If Derrick Rose is out, Tim Frazier is the flat minimum across all 4 sites. Something to keep in mind moving forward if you're looking to get off, say, Chris Boucher chalk. Let's start with Andre Drummond. 10-4 on FanDuel, 9,800 on DK, 18-4 on Fantasy Draft, and $51 on Yahoo. Just holistically, for all of this, no one on the Pistons has ownership projected north of 7%. Do you want to get to Andre Drummond today with Blake back?
I like that the Draftkings preemptively priced him down a bit, right?
Yes.
If Andre Drummond was, what was he last time out? 10-5. He was 10-8 before that. I don't see any way I'm getting there. And honestly, his last 3 games have been, 2 of 3 have been good, but they haven't been spectacular by any stretch. I think, though, at sub 10K, it's really not a crazy idea to think that Drummond is viable here. Now, if you just look at the numbers, 23% last season with Blake Griffin on the floor, 23% usage, 25% total rebounding. It truly is ridiculous. 6% assists, so that's really nothing. 1.28 fantasy points per minute. Now, if you were to run what we've seen from Andre Drummond with Blake Griffin off the floor, I can extend it through the first couple of weeks of this season and see what we get. You got 1.28 fantasy points per minute with Griffin on the floor last year, with him off the floor this year and last year. Of course, Wowie decides that right now it doesn't feel like, here we go.
I can tell you that he's at 1.54 this season.
Right. So 1.54. And if you include last season, 1.46. So those are really good numbers. His usage is 27.5 with Blake Griffin off the floor since the start of last year. His rebounding is 27.5%. His assist rate actually doubles to 12%. So you obviously see a huge increase in production. I don't think by any means he's a top option today, but I do think against Minnesota in a pace-up spot with a 224 total, you could make an argument that Drummond's fine. It's just Blake Griffin returning is going to be a big deal. I also don't know how many minutes he's going to play.
Yeah, I put him in for 28. I don't have any information here. I don't really have a ton of interest. I mean, if it is 28, I have zero interest in Blake Griffin across the board. I don't get the sense that I have. I'm going to have a lot of Andre Drummond either. As of right now, where'd he go? He's just behind Cat for me. Towns is $400 more expensive on FanDuel. I would rather have Towns. He's $200 more expensive on DraftKings. I would, again, much rather have Towns. It's just going to be a tricky spot for Drummond now. Obviously, Towns in this game, and we will get to it. What do you think for Blake? Do you think that they just let him loose?
I think, again, on DraftKings did a good job of at least making us have this conversation. If Blake was at what he's normally going to be at, we wouldn't even be talking about this. We just pass right by it. Yeah. 7,200 is not crazy. If you're giving him, say, I don't know, 30 minutes, then Blake Griffin is probably in play. A lot of this is because of the matchup. I do think that, going up against this Timberwolves team is going to make life a little bit easier. 7,200, you're getting a much more discounted price than you normally would. I want to know what his minutes are going to be, though, because last year Blake averaged 1.19 fantasy points per minute. Yep. So even across 30 minutes, that's not that great. It's okay, but it's not great. I'd probably take the wait and see approach here. I don't think you need to get to Blake, even though I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped like a 45 spot in his return.
Oh, not at all. I mean, he's still ultra talented. This is just a playing time thing. And if you think that he can be limited in any way, it's a little nerve-wracking.
I don't know how he would come out there and play 34 minutes in his first game. That seems more, unreasonable than anything else.
Yeah, I would be surprised by that. After that, I've got Derrick Rose in 24 minutes. I don't have any interest in him at 5,800 on both sites. Luke Kennard is 5,900 on FanDuel. I think that's feasible given the positional structure. But really, the only things that I'm going to be looking at, I'm kind of with the public. There's no ownership here. If I get to some Drummond, I think that's fine. But the guy that I'm really trying to see is potentially Tim Frazier if Derrick Rose ends up being out.
Ugh. The thing with Frazier is how many minutes would you think? How many minutes would you expect him to play here in the event that he plays? What are you giving him?
I
24?
have him 18 now, but that's also with Rose in.
So I'm saying if Rose is out, what are you going to give Frazier?
Probably
24
or more.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
Maybe
feel that
28.
comfortable. 28. I think this is actually a pretty tough one because they're actually, while Rose could join Reggie Jackson on the sidelines, there are certainly a number of ways in this backcourt that Dwayne Casey can restrict Frazier's minutes. It's not like that's the only place he can go. He can go, of course, back to Bruce Brown to handle point guard minutes. Langston Galloway can handle point guard minutes. He played 31 minutes last time out. So there certainly are ways to make this work. So I personally would feel more comfortable putting him around 24.
Yeah.
Of course, he is minimum salary. Usage is going to be nothing with Blake and Drummond in this offense. Luke Kennard having a clear bigger role this season. But at minimum salary, I'm not going to argue that he could be an option against Minnesota.
Yeah, he's going to pick up a bunch of ownership if Rose is out, just by default. Not exactly an exciting play. He was at 0.78 FanDuel points per minute so far this season.
Yeah,
it just sucks that he went out at the exact same time that Rose went out. We have no information of how they'll operate when both of them are when only one of them is there. So
for sure.
On the Minnesota side, Towns 10-8 on FanDuel, 10K on DK. I mean, straight across the board, really. 53 on Yahoo is kind of scary. I really like Towns on FanDuel and Fantasy Draft, but he's one of my favorite players of the day, and probably, let me just resort this. He's probably my favorite pay-up option of the day.
Okay. Not against it. He's perfectly fine knowing that Teague is out. We can talk about him, but I want to mention Wiggins for a second. I in our NBA syllabus that we do, we say, give a contrarian player your top contrarian play. On Friday, Andrew Wiggins was the guy that I had mentioned in there for one reason. It's crazy, Josh, but I'm starting to become, I never thought this would happen.
It should be good.
I'm starting to become an Andrew Wiggins truther. I actually think that he may have turned the corner. And I know it's crazy to say that, right? He's more than like a half decade into his NBA career. But a few things have really stood out to me. He averaged, and of course, this is with Jeff Teague out. That's what's important here. But we're actually seeing some point Wiggins, man, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
He averaged 15 potential assists in back-to-back games with Teague out. And I don't think it's a fluke. He's actually, he's touching, he's handling the ball more. He was leading the team in touches. Whereas I know Towns got into some foul trouble, but there's still no doubt in my mind that Wiggins is a lot more involved as a ball handler with Teague and Shabazz Napier off the floor this year. The price has come up, no question, and that's something you obviously have to contend with. But look at these past couple of games. First of all, he's attempted 20 plus field goals in 4 straight. He has 6, 7, and 5 assists over his last 3 games. All of that to me is really solid. And then when you look at what he's doing with Teague and Napier off the floor this year, 121 minutes, dude, he has a 29% assist rate.
Yeah.
That's a really good number.
He's also 8K on FanDuel now.
Yeah, I don't think it's that crazy. 1.27 fantasy points per minute with these guys off the floor. Small sample, I get it. But when you really think about it, who outside of Karl Anthony Towns commands any usage or any offensive attention, right?
Nobody. By the way, I still have Teague in for today, just FYI.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I have Napier out. I have Teague in. There is no information with regards to injuries to my knowledge right now. Minnesota is the one team that did not submit, well, Minnesota and Toronto did not submit injury information for the 8:30 report last night. So for right now, we don't really know anything.
For sure. I think Napier is also questionable still.
So he was doubtful last night, and it is expected to stay doubtful. But we probably won't know anything until the 1:30 injury report.
Sure. I mean, it is a second of a back-to-back. Traveling for this one after playing at home.
Yeah, they're not going to have a shoot around today.
So I guess take it with a grain of salt. But if you're Wiggins is 1.27 fantasy point per minute guy with Teague and Napier off the court, I don't think that is a crazy number at all. At all with the way he's played. If you're going to he's played 40 plus minutes in back-to-back games, 5 minutes in overtime, but he still got 40 the one before that. Like if you gave him 37 minutes with that type of production, I still don't think, assuming Teague and Napier are out, I don't think it's crazy to still like Andrew Wiggins today, especially if people continue to ignore him and he's coming in at he was 5% owned on Friday, dude. 5%.
We have him at 3 on FanDuel and 2 on DK today.
Yeah, I'm still okay getting there. I believe that the ball handling, if Teague and Napier are out, will make a huge difference in his production. And it'll really boost his floor.
Two completely different conversations. I know we're talking about Wiggins turning a corner. Minus 0.4 in 538's new player rating metric. So still been bad.
Which one? The Draymond one?
The Raptor, it's called.
Oh, okay. They have another one that's called Draymond, and it's a defensive rating.
Right. So he's been box score Raptor. Regardless, he's been still bad, but that's not the same thing as playing DFS. So
yeah, I don't care if he's helping his team or not.
Exactly.
Actually, that means nothing to me. But jacking up when you're jacking up 20 shots a game, I'm willing to take a look. He's got a 28% usage rate this year.
Yeah.
And with those two guys off the floor, his usage is 32%.
Completely different conversations just in general. I was just looking to think maybe I wonder if he's playing better for the team as well. Doesn't appear to be the case. Not at all important to a DFS decision. I can't pay $8K for him on FanDuel with a lot of volume. We've got Donovan Mitchell at 8,200, who I think is pretty comparable, at least for today. I'd rather have Wiggins given the ownership, but Drew Holiday for $300 more at shooting guard with no Lonzo. I'm going to have a hard time getting to Wiggins over that.
Dude, can people stop talking about Kent Bazemore revenge game? Come on. I've seen this everywhere. This is crazy.
For a second, it took me, I had to try to figure out what team Kent Bazemore was on.
Yeah, exactly. I doubt he's vengeful towards an Atlanta Hawks team that is in the gutter.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, please.
Also, the Atlanta Hawks gave him that paper. I'm sure he's super happy to be a multimillionaire because of it.
Yeah, and yeah, dude, I'm sorry, but revenge for a guy that touches the ball 35 times a game. It's very hard to enact your grand plan to take this team out when you're touching the ball 35, 40 times per game. He had 5 stocks yesterday. Of course that's going to be nice, but revenge has nothing to do with you blocking shots and getting some steals. Don't give me oh, well, he had a higher motor yesterday. He played harder. He had that grit, that nitty gritty, man. That's just ludicrous. I'm happy for anyone that played him, but it wasn't because of revenge. It's because he played the Atlanta Hawks in the starting lineup and still only had 25 fantasy points. Come on now.
Do you want any Robert Covington on Minnesota? He's 15% owned on FanDuel. It's pretty much strictly a positional thing. I'm pretty indifferent to everything that's not Towns.
Rocco is fine. Man, someday we'll have to get more into this revenge game thing. I have no problem with him, but I think that price is a little bit prohibitive for me.
I can't get into it. I don't have any thoughts. It literally never crosses my mind. Well, it certainly doesn't cross my mind for him.
Do you believe in revenge? For a wing player?
Not really. If you told me that if Isaiah Thomas was really playing well and he went back to Boston, I think that he might want that more.
Ball handler, totally different. I'm willing to Kobe Bryant retirement game. Of course.
Yeah.
But for guys that play off the ball, it's very hard to make any argument at all that there's revenge or that you can even enact revenge.
No, he's in a better situation now than he would have been if he was
Exactly.
still
What
in
are you
Atlanta.
pissed about?
Yeah, Atlanta signed him to a contract and then sent him to a contender. They made the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure he's more than okay with where he's at. Anyway.
Yes.
Let's keep it moving. Boston Celtics, Dallas Mavericks, 111 implied total for Boston, 107 for the Mavs. Boston's defense is decent. Dallas's is less than decent. Relatively neutral pace factor for this one. Lots of ownership coming in now that Gordon Hayward broke his hand, which, I mean, better than breaking your foot like he did. He's been playing really well, so it kind of sucks that he's going to be out. We could see Cantor here making the return. Kemba, Tatum, Brown, Smart, all in double digits in ownership on FanDuel. Kemba not there on DK, just 4%, where he's 8,900. The guy that stands out most to me is probably Jaylen Brown, 6,400 on FanDuel, 6,300 on DK. I just rarely have anybody from Boston stand out as like somebody I want to get a ton of, unless like one of the main ball handlers ends up being out. Does anything stand out to you for the Celtics?
Not really. I mean, the problem here is that with Hayward out, these sites have had time to price players up, right? It's not a quick turnaround, a back-to-back here. Gordon Hayward goes down, and now a lot of these guys are pretty reasonably priced. So if you're just talking about per dollar or point per dollar wise, I don't think any of them are great, but Jason Tatum, I would expect him to see more usage, and I don't have a problem with him against Boston or against Dallas whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you've seen Gordon Hayward directly influence Tatum's production, right? Like Tatum a couple games ago had a really solid first half. And then in the second half, Gordon Hayward just took over. And when that's the case, there isn't really much for Tatum to do. And that's going to take away from him because he's not going to sit there and distribute while Kemba Walker sits around and does nothing. But I think Tatum is fine. With Hayward off the floor this year, he's played 113 minutes with him off. He has a 33.4% usage rate, 1.2 fantasy points per minute. I think Tatum would be one of the guys I look to most because I think Hayward's absence affects him probably more than most, if you're talking about a high usage guy.
I'm with you. I understand why these guys are going to get ownership. Anytime that you can bring 30 minutes out of the starting rotation, at least for a game or two, you're going to see some value pop up for the rest of the team.
Not just 30 minutes, but pretty significant offensive responsibility too, right?
Right.
23% usage rate, which appeared to be increasing over the past week. 22% assist rate. You know, that when you void something like that, it's got to be soaked up somewhere. Who do you think soaks up the bulk of this, or do you think it's just distributed evenly?
For the most part, just distributed evenly. They've been running deeper rotations than I would normally expect the Celtics to do so. So, I think Brad Wanamaker gets a couple extra minutes. I think Grant Williams gets a couple extra minutes. You could see a couple extra from Semi or Carson Edwards. Like, they're just going to make it fit. There's an upper limit of how much, Walker, Tatum, Brown, Smart are just going to get whatever they're getting. I think that they're just going to rotate around. Brad Stevens doesn't really settle on rotations. He's really big into gathering data of different combinations. So I would be surprised if anybody jumped off the page unless they name someone weird a starter.
Yeah, right now I don't have any of them as a premier value.
No.
But all of them are decent value. So not all of them, but most of them are decent value. Whereas if they end up in my lineups, I don't have an issue with it at all. How many minutes are you giving Marcus Smart here? 34?
I have him in at 30 right now, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I have a bit more than that, but I think he's fine at that price. All of them are okay. Just none of them stand out as top plays today either.
I'm not sure that Smart gets the biggest bump from this one, but I don't know.
No? Who do you think gets the biggest biggest bump?
I'm just trying to look. Maybe Brad Wanamaker, honestly.
Okay.
Which I know is kind of crazy. Look, I mean, I have Smart playing 30 minutes. It's not like I think he's going to play 24.
Sure.
And somehow this is if you told me it's 32, I'd be like, yeah, that's totally reasonable.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy to meet you in the middle on that one. That makes sense.
I think the more likely scenario is that they're bumping Jaylen Brown up sort of a position and working in one of these like 50 guards that they appear to have. Oh, no wonder. I've been spelling Javonte Green wrong this entire time. He's also going to see a little bit of a bump. Couldn't spell it. It's my fault. Dallas side, 10-7 for Luka, 10-4 on DK, 18-3 on Fantasy Draft, $49 on Yahoo. Not really the best Luka spot in the world. Porzingis should be back, I would imagine.
I gotta say, highly disappointing game from Luka the other day. 59 fantasy points. Why is that disappointing? Because in the first quarter, he had 10, 5, and 8. Insane, right? In the first quarter. This guy was on pace for 743 fantasy points, Josh. Did not happen, but he played 29 minutes in a blowout. He is unbelievable, man. This guy is just spectacular. Love Luka. The triple doubles are rolling in. He does everything well. Literally everything this guy does is top notch. And I don't care if you're only he's shooting what 32% from three. Good enough for me, fella. Keep firing away. Just the minutes too. Remember last year those minutes were low 30s a lot of games. Now in competitive games, you're seeing him get upward of 38 minutes. I'm normally all over Luka, but this matchup is one that concerns me. Now, any guy that leads his team in rebound chances, potential assists, usage, touches, everything is always going to be in play. But I'm not really a proponent of loading up on guys against Boston. I still think this is a tough team, and more minutes for Marcus Smart and that really scrappy defense could make life a little bit more difficult as well. It's a good defensive team, and particularly a good defensive backcourt that I have some concerns over.
Yeah, right now, the only person in double digits in projected ownership for Dallas is Maxey on FanDuel, where he's 4,500. Everybody else is in single digits or nothing at all. I continue to be interested in Dwight Powell at 5,100 on FanDuel. 0.7 fantasy points per minute so far has been pretty atrocious, but I expect that to improve. I don't really get the sense that I'd have a ton of Porzingis, but I like the price tags. Ultimately, I don't really want a lot of Dallas here. Boston's just good. They're a smart team. I don't see this as the spot that has like a ton of fantasy upside.
No, neither do I. It's a tough spot. If you're getting if you're getting a good price point on guys, then I'm okay with that. But I would say that even though we only have 6 games, we're going to come across some better spots here. How many minutes are you projecting Maxey for and Dwight Powell for?
Powell 28, Maxey 24.
Okay. All right.
They're tricky. Like in the past 2 games for Maxey where Porzingis played, he played 30 and 20. So if I know what they're going to do there. Powell's been pretty much playing 28 minutes plus as at least an average over his last 5. Got up to 34 in one game. I think his are a little bit more steady.
Yeah, I would say those minutes sound about right.
I mean, if you told me that Maxey played 30, I'd completely understand it. It's just it's hard to prioritize that when he's bouncing around in minutes all that much. I mean, actually, I'm probably underselling Maxey. At the very least, I need to give him 2 more minutes.
I think you're going to see a hot hand approach at times too. How many minutes are they playing with each other and without each other?
Yeah.
It's some stuff I want to look into. We'll talk more about it on the deeper dive.
I mean, for 5K, like even if you're giving Maxey a bunch, I don't necessarily think that's a great price on DraftKings. 4,500 on FanDuel opens him up a bit.
Yes. Yeah, Dwight Powell and Maxey, there's direct substitutions in No, see, these are all over the place.
Oh, these guys, they're all playing with each other.
Yeah, this was all over the place. He directly subbed in a couple times in the second quarter, but outside of that, no, they're overlapping quite a bit here.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're trying it all out, trying to find out what worked, because Luka and Porzingis on has been bad. They have not been playing very well when they're on together. So I think they're just trying to find out what makes those pieces fit best.
All right, which presents us with some risk for sure, but
yeah,
also some serious potential for big games. I'm with you though, Dwight Powell. The price, I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I'm still okay with it.
Yeah, at 5,100 on FanDuel is a bargain in comparison to the 5,200 on DK. Yeah.
Sure. And for what it's worth, I have him at 29. I have Maxey at 26.
Yeah, I bumped Maxey up to 26. All right. Pelicans Rockets, get the sense that this one will be mildly popular. We're going to have a lot to talk about here. 119.25 implied total for the Pels, 123.75 for the Rockets. This is a pace-up spot for both teams. They've both been significantly below average defensively. No Lonzo Ball for the Pels. We've got Drew Holiday in the mid-teens in ownership. We've got Brandon Ingram at 36% across FanDuel and DK. We've got Derek Favors at 45% on FanDuel right now, 33 on DK. Kenrich Williams is at 20% on FanDuel at 3,900. Start wherever you would like.
Okay. Well, I think number one, Jonte Murray is. I'm sorry, you're talking New Orleans, Houston. My fault. I go into. No, you're not. Well, which game are you on here?
Is Pels Rockets not an 8:00 start?
Well, Memphis and San Antonio 7:30, so you confused me a little bit.
So I have that in as 8:30.
Do you?
I do. Per Basketball Reference's schedule. I don't update this.
Hold on, I'll tell you right now. I'm looking at Draftkings here. 7:30.
You could be right.
7:30. No, yeah. It is 7:30. I'm on NBA on NBA.com. They got them at 7:30.
I grabbed the Basketball Reference schedule from the jump, a month and a half ago. So if it changes, I'll never have different starting times. Sorry, brother.
All good.
Pelicans Rockets. DeJounte Murray looks pretty damn good. You didn't hear any of that original spiel of going through the Pelicans.
Dude, I shouldn't have needed to. I caught myself though, right? I caught myself. I said, wait, I think I heard him say Pelicans at one point. All right, you want to stay with the Rockets and then we'll hit San Antonio afterwards?
It seems about right.
Want to do it? All right. Dejounte Murray. Now, look, James Harden against the Pels here. I think we're beginning to see that clear separation between Westbrook and Harden, which we weren't seeing earlier in the year. There are going to be games, of course, where Russell Westbrook comes on strong and has some really big performances. But this is James Harden's team, and I don't think there's any disputing that at this point. What we saw earlier in the season was a product of James Harden not hitting any of his shots and just being unbelievably inefficient, which, by the way, he's done in each of the first or last couple seasons. We've seen some pretty ugly starts to the season from a shooting standpoint for James Harden. The greatest thing is this guy could shoot 1 of 18 from 3-point range and still give you 70 fantasy points. So there's really no reason to complain. Usage wise though, 40% usage this season. Westbrook's at 28%. And then this is why this team is so interesting. And the Lakers are the same with LeBron and Davis. So Harden's at 40% usage. Westbrook's at 28.3. And then you got to you got to get all the way down to Eric Gordon, who is third at 18%, right? Clint Capella at 16, Daniel House at 13. There's nobody even close. Mm-hmm. So I expect them to be able to coexist. Now James Harden's got a higher assist rate than Westbrook at 42.5%. He's, of course, not going to rebound as well, but 60% true shooting percentage, 48% effective field goal percentage. Nevertheless, James Harden against the New Orleans Pelicans is a spot that you're going to be hard-pressed to overlook on a day where they have a 243 over-under. That's insanity.
I'll overlook it for Russell Westbrook.
Sure, but you could just play playing both of them would make more sense than not playing James Harden in this game.
Harden, 27% ownership on FanDuel, 17 on DraftKings. Meanwhile, Westbrook, 46 and 43.
Yeah, of course he's 8,800.
Yeah,
on DraftKings at least. That's crazy.
Yeah, averaging essentially a triple double.
Yeah, and if you're worried about those minutes, they've been involved in 3 straight blowouts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Russell Westbrook seems to be a no-brainer cash play for everywhere tonight. I certainly like Harden. I would rather have Towns than Harden, given
I wouldn't.
The salaries today.
I understand the salary gap there, but I still think Harden's if Harden's coming in at, what'd you say, 14% on DraftKings?
Yeah.
I will find a way to make that work.
I have Karl Anthony Towns right now, 0.9 of a point behind Harden for tonight.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. 29% projected ownership too.
Yeah.
You have him 0.9 of a point behind Harden
right now. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously subject. I don't do like a deep dig into rates and stuff until like 3:00. So this is just kind of whatever's been in there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue it. I have Harden 6 points ahead of Towns.
Okay.
Not 0.6 of a point.
Sure. Only other guys getting ownership from Houston, basically Eric Gordon, 4,200, 3,900. It's around 20% across both sites. No. Yes. I don't know. I'll have a little.
I just have no interest in it, man. I know we keep trying to chase the dragon there.
0.49 FanDuel points per minute this season.
He's been atrocious. He's truly been terrible.
Real bad.
He has one game with more than 20 fantasy points. That's where it's been for Eric Gordon. And dude, the amazing thing is if you look at his rates, they're so bad. I mean, they're so bad. What's he priced at on DraftKings? 3,900. Like, I get why you'd want to play him at that price, but I'm just not convinced that, like, once in a while you're going to get a game from Eric Gordon where he shoots, 60, 70% from the field and has 25 real points. Until then, you're not going to get anything from him because that's the only way he produces. He has an assist rate of 3%, a rebound rate of 3%, and a usage rate below 20%. His steal and block rates are 0.9 and 0.4% respectively. Those are some of the worst rates you'll see for any player in the league this season.
Yeah, he's been. Oh no, Charles Rogers, former number 1 overall pick of the Lions, has died.
Really?
Apparently, per our YouTube chat. And normally I don't trust YouTube chat, but it seems like a real weird thing to bring up right now.
And a weird name to bring up, yeah. Yeah, he's dead at 38.
Part of the back-to-back-to-back wideouts for was it Matt Millen?
Yeah, that's
him, Mike Williams, and who else was it? Was it Calvin probably?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whoops. Let's take a look at the Pelicans side here. So we don't have Lonzo. Derek Favors played real big minutes last night. He is 45% projected ownership on FanDuel today. I don't disagree with that number if he does play extended run. I'm happy to get to Drew at his price. Brandon Ingram's been fantastic. I think 36% ownership here is a little scary. But Kenrich Williams for 19% on FanDuel. I get that he's 3,900. I don't know what this team is doing for rotations and minutes. He could just as easily not play tonight.
It really surprises me too, because Alvin Gentry's usually been pretty decent about that. He's usually someone that you haven't really had to worry about it. Not the case this year. Drew Holiday, though, this is concerning what I'm seeing from Drew. And I think the prices on him are actually, I don't think he's discounted. Like, for example, you've got his usage is down 5% from last season. It's at 20.5%. His assist rate is down 5% from 32%. Well, down almost 6% from 32 to 26. That's not really encouraging. He's going to have some big games. He's going to play around 35 minutes in regulation, which is good to know. And you're going to see some games where, he gives you 4 steals and 7 rebounds and 11 assists and 20 points. But he doesn't have a 20-point game this entire season so far. He has 1 double-digit assist game. And if you're wondering why, well, believe it or not, bringing Ingram in there and bringing Lonzo Ball in there is worse for him than just having Anthony Davis there, in my opinion, at least, Josh. And I don't even think it's an opinion. We're seeing it clear as day. Usage-wise, Ingram's at 28%. And then Holiday is second in the starting lineup. Alexander Walker's at 25.5. Frank Jackson is at 23. But then there's really nobody else. I think a lot of it, though, comes down to there are a lot of guys on this team now that can facilitate, whereas last year, outside of Elfrid Payton, it was just Jrue Holiday.
We got YouTube chat being like, they should trade Jrue, blah, blah, blah. He's still the 3rd most valuable guy on the team from wins above replacement. Higher than Brandon Ingram, I might add. Don't just pay attention to DFS stats for the NBA. They want Jrue Holiday there because he's one of the best two-way guards in the league. He might be the best two-way guard in the league. Is that a ridiculous statement?
The best two-way guard? I'd have to think of some guys. It sounds like it's ridiculous.
I mean, that's how good he is defensively. That
he's excellent. He's excellent defensively.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure. Maybe you're right. Maybe he is. But I feel like we're missing a player.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure we are. But it's close in terms of guys that affect the game in both ways. I think it's closer than people assume. Lowry, not anymore. Lowry's
Mike Conley might have been. Mike Conley before a couple. Mike Conley at one point was one of them for sure.
I'll take Buddy Hield over him. I knew Jarrell Martin was the worst person in this chat. There we go.
I'll take Buddy Hield over.
Yeah,
Drew.
Yeah, as a two-way player. That's the conversation we're having right now. Buddy Hield defensive stats. That's what we're gonna do.
Fascinating comment.
Incredible. Yeah, Klay Thompson. There we go.
Yep.
Wasn't thinking of him because he wasn't active, but yeah.
Klay I knew we were missing someone.
Yeah, Klay Thompson for sure.
Klay Thompson.
Agreed.
Yep, that's the right answer.
Yep, I agree. Can't be Oladipo now.
No, but I do like that. That makes sense.
That's a good shout too. That one's real close.
Brogdon might end up being one of them very soon.
Working on it. Now people are saying Jimmy Butler. He's not really a shooting guard to me in the same way.
Another good answer, though.
Yeah, it's not like I don't think that's like a wrong take or anything. That one's close. Because as much as we like Jimmy Butler and as much as he's getting paper, he still hasn't won shit.
Nope. Well, neither is Drew.
No. Not at all.
Good talk.
Buddy Hield. I can't get over that one. That's one of the worst answers I've ever seen. Seriously, that's not even in the ballpark.
That's great.
That couldn't have been worse.
That is good.
Cantor 33 nailed it. We're starting to get to the point where it might be DeJounte Murray.
Dude, DeJounte Murray looks nasty.
Let's close out these Pelicans first so then we can actually talk about DeJounte Murray and make it important.
I tried to earlier.
Yeah, I know. Favors 45% owned. How many minutes do you think this dude plays?
I've been saying it since the beginning of the season that we've been projecting him for ridiculous minutes that haven't come to fruition. And then, of course, he plays 29, right? But Favors hasn't averaged more than, I think he's averaged 23 minutes or less per game in 3 of his last 4 seasons. So it's really difficult to say. Last year, 2 of his last 3 seasons. Can he play more minutes? Yeah, of course he can. But there just hasn't really been any incentive to do so. I'm going to put him at, and I don't feel confident in this at all, like whatsoever. I'm going to put him at 26, but I don't know. I honestly, I'm not going to pretend I do. I have no idea, Josh.
Yeah, I gave him 24, which still makes him pop off the page for me.
Right.
I like that. That allows for like a pretty sizable amount of upside, I think. So I understand why he's getting that sort of ownership, especially on FanDuel. I think 36% ownership going to Brandon Ingram right now is problematic.
Here's Favors minutes, though. 21, 22, 18, 8, That was the game where he was available to return, and he returned, but he played 8 minutes. 19-29. It's truly all over the map. And if you were going to take the mean here, you're probably looking at what, like 21, 22, 20? I don't know. Or does that be the median?
I don't know. I get
median,
that.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
So,
I wasn't listening.
That's fine. I'm saying if you were to take the minutes, I guess I deserved some payback there. If you were to take the minutes of what he's played, 21, 22, 18, 8, I won't count that because
Are you talking about DeJounte Murray or?
No, I was still on Favors.
Oh, okay, man. Sorry. I was on the Spurs game.
Nice. I'm saying I think if you were to take what he's played, 21 minutes would make the most sense, but I don't know how to project his minutes today. That's all.
But, I'm with you. That's how I feel. Like Kenrich Williams played 28 minutes in their most recent game, which is interesting. The games before that, he played 11 and 6. He had a 3 in there at one point in time.
Right.
I don't know what to do with some of these guys. I had Melly not projected in a game. He ended up starting that game. Like they're yanking these people all over the place.
I know. You said it when we started this game.
Okafor didn't play in the most recent game.
Right. There isn't much rhyme or reason to this at all. Wait, what did you say? Okafor played.
Okafor got a DNP CD in their most recent game.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Toronto, he played. Yeah. So against Toronto, Charlotte is the one he didn't play, correct?
On the 9th.
Yeah, the 9th. Right. Against Charlotte, didn't play. Popcorn Machine has decided just to completely not have that one available the whole day.
Of course. And guessing their symbols and shit to figure out that link is ridiculous.
I'm sure. And someone did it. I can't. Anyway, I pulled the last one up and I thought it would be the 9th because it came before the 10th. But it was the 8th. So yeah, Okafor with the DNP. For all we know, he plays again. I don't know, dude.
We need more information on this Pelicans team. If you think that Kenrich Williams can play 24 minutes today, then 3,900 on FanDuel is a hell of a bargain. I am really struggling to figure out who is actually going to be playing for this team. Never expected Ja to just get the DNP CD. Melly took one on Monday the 4th and then came back and started on the 8th. Don't really know how to reconcile that.
If Favors is going to come in at like 30+% ownership, I don't see myself coming anywhere close to that. If he's going to be one of the chalkiest players on the slate.
I probably on FanDuel I don't have much of an issue with it. He's a $5,300 power forward. There's not really any. After that, you're either playing Maxey, Trey Lyles, Royce O'Neal, or JaMychal Green below him.
I don't have an issue with it, but I think it'd be very difficult for Favors to kill you just based on what we've seen this season. I'm talking about Favors to kill you if you faded him. But he's averaging just shy of a fantasy point per minute this year.
Yeah.
He's played 22 or fewer minutes in 5 of 6 games. Was last game a sign of things to come, and Alvin Gentry is going to continue to play him for more? It's very possible.
Should be,
but I haven't seen anything to suggest that it was. And if this was going overlooked and Favors wasn't popular, I would 100% roll the dice and say, man, all right. Maybe we're on top of this and he's going to start playing 28 to 30 minutes a game. But because everyone seemingly is on this, I have less interest.
That's fair. Guys, perfect opportunity for y'all to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. But the like button, monstrous for us. We're going to go for a big number again tonight. We've got Laffy and Manny coming up at 11 a.m. right after us, taking a look back at yesterday's NFL slate and things to do moving forward. Jake will have the NHL show at 4 p.m. I don't know what's happening now. Alex will have his game plan stream at 4 p.m. Laffy and Adam will be back for the deeper dive at 5. Spags and I live before lock at 6 o'clock.
And things to do next weekend. That was good.
What?
All right. You're like, yeah, they'll break down yesterday's slate and things to do for next weekend.
It's a perfect.
Phenomenal.
That should be the tagline underneath the show.
Monday morning quarterback and things to do next weekend.
Right. That's exactly how we rate it up on YouTube, I believe.
Very solid.
All right. Since you're itching for it, San Antonio Spurs, Memphis Grizzlies, 117.5 implied total for the Spurs, 106.5 for the Grizzlies. Oh yeah, NFL Live Before Lock at 7:30 tonight for the Monday Night Football game. Sorry, I missed that one. Spurs and Grizzlies, big time favorites for the Spurs. Oh God, I hate this damn team. Lamarcus Aldridge is 6,300 on DraftKings. What do we do with this?
So I kind of went off on a tangent about it on Thursday. There's no way that Aldridge was going to stay as bad as he'd been playing. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. For a couple of reasons. His usage was significantly lower than it was last year, and Jonte Murray is not going to make that big of a difference in that department. It's just not going to happen. His usage was 27% this year. I have him around like 25% this season, but he's currently has 22% usage rate. It doesn't make very much sense. Mm-hmm. His rebounding rate is 5% lower than it was a season ago. So all of these numbers are bad. Now, he was terrible against Boston. He was excellent against OKC. OKC was the Thursday night game where you're just telling yourself there's no way he continues to shoot way worse than he has throughout his career, right? There's just it's hard to believe his everything stays this low. So I expect some bigger games and better games from Aldridge down the road. I also expect some bad games, but at 6,300 against Memphis, a team that's playing up in pace, has one of the worst defenses in the league, I understand eating the chalk on a guy like Lamarcus Aldridge. Memphis playing at a top 5 pace this season. Their 111 D rating is 5th worst in the league. There's plenty of merit to getting the Aldridge at a very discounted price.
What about Chalk DeMar DeRozan? Same ownership on DraftKings right now. They're both mid-30s.
I get it. You know, I like a $700 discount on Aldridge, but yeah. I really don't have any problem with DeRozan here either. He's a good enough player to pay that price tag off. But if you told me I could play only one of them, I would go Aldridge here because I don't think the range of outcomes are all that different.
No, I mean, I think Aldridge is probably my second favorite play on this entire slate for DraftKings, given that price.
Great play.
There's like, what's the downside to 6,300 at this point? This is not $8,100 Lamarcus Aldridge going out and giving you 40 fantasy points.
Right.
6,300 is crazy, stupid low.
It's really low. And of course, he's had a couple bad games. But once again, if you really think his usage and rebounding is going to stay that low, not enough about this Spurs team has changed for that to be the case. I know Jonte Murray's rebounding really well as a guard, so maybe you see it come down, but he's not taking 5% off of his usage. Like, that's just not happening. Grizzlies are allowing 52 points in the paint, 4th most in the league. Of course, Aldridge is a killer with that mid-range elbow jumper. I just don't really see anyone defending him here. Valanciunas has played solid defense this season, but more so around the basket. And I think Aldridge has enough range to make life a little bit more difficult on him.
We got DeJounte Murray in the mid-20s in ownership. Derek White's at just under 30 on FanDuel. Rudy Gay just under 20. It's just another team where you see all these guys that can play anywhere from like 20 to 26 minutes, and you need to get them on the day that they play 26 and not the day that they play 20. And that's really, really difficult. Rotations for the Spurs have been notoriously hard forever. We know that Murray is essentially locked into 24 minutes. I think that he's fantastic, but there's only so much I can do with him, especially as more and more games get added to the slate. On a 3-game slate, you're happy to take his points. On a 6-gamer, it kind of matters that his right tail is kind of trimmed off by not being able to be out on the floor for 30 minutes. Do you want anybody else? Because the guy that stands out most to me is probably Rudy Gay. And I don't really know what else to do with the Spurs. I think it's just mostly Aldridge for me.
It's mostly Aldridge for me too. You know, if you want to take a shot and hope that Rudy Gay plays 25 minutes, then I get it. But I'm not going to pretend that I have confidence in Rudy Gay here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to knock his minutes back.
Because of the matchup, there's going to be more than one, you would assume, more than one good game for the Spurs. But it is very difficult to get an idea of where it's going to come from. And I really don't know. I mean, you got guys like Jakob Poeltl playing 13 to 15 minutes per game. You got Trey Lyles coming out here and playing decent minutes, 20, 21, 21 over his last three. If he was cheaper, I'd probably have some interest there even. But ultimately, Aldridge is the only one I really like. Yeah. DeRozan makes sense. And if Rudy Gay would be a tournament play only, there's no way I would roster a guy in cash that might play 18 minutes. And he's still projected for 15% ownership, which is pretty wild.
Yeah,
Jonte Murray is projected for 23 on DraftKings.
26 on FanDuel.
That's crazy.
I'm not there for that.
No, neither am I.
I think he's fantastic. Like, I think he's really, really. He's about 1.4 for the season, but per minute. Until we know more about his minutes, though, that makes for a really difficult GPP play. On the Grizzlies side, Jaren Jackson is in double digits. Tyus Jones as well on FanDuel. That'll go away. I assume Ja Morant is playing today. I haven't seen anything to the contrary. I'm probably not going to be getting to anything from the Grizzlies outside of maybe a little bit of Triple J. Do you want any parts of Memphis against San Antonio?
Man, Jaren Jackson the other day, that started off really ugly, and then he somehow turned around. He had zero stats. He did not factor. He was invisible for the first quarter. Literally, you wouldn't have known he played outside of probably a couple personal fouls. But no, the thing that sucks about Memphis is a lot of times teams that play at a lightning fast pace, or at least an elevated pace, and have a bad defense, a lot of them are actually really good fantasy options, right? Yeah. The Sixers in their tanking days always had some value that you could turn to. Atlanta had some guys last season. Usually there's something there, but it's really tough because Valanciunas isn't getting enough minutes.
Right.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is just one big foul out, even though I think, like you said, he's probably fine here. But there's no one that stands out as really solid options. I guess you could say that Tyus Jones, if Morant doesn't play, probably plays 28, 30 minutes. But against the Spurs, against DeJounte Murray, that's not really an appealing spot either.
No, nothing's appealing to me on this one. It's
yeah. But Morant should play anyway, so
I would expect him to. I haven't seen anything, so if Morant is in, I will have very little to no exposure coming from Memphis.
Even if he's out, Tyus Jones isn't that appealing.
Golden State and Utah, 101.5 implied total for the Warriors, 111.5 for the Jazz. We'll start on the Warriors side where Draymond Green expected to be back. He's probable for today. Gave him 28 minutes. He's not really someone that I'm looking to get to today, although I think on DK you can sort of make a case for it at 6,600. I'll happily go to D'Angelo Russell, though, 8,900 on FanDuel, 8,300 on DK, 15.2 on Fantasy Draft as well. He can do whatever he wants. He literally gets to run all of it. But this is arguably the worst defensive matchup in the league for him. Going to be tough sledding, a little bit of a pace down spot. So I don't need to go too crazy for Russell, but he'll certainly have the opportunity.
Yeah. How has D'Angelo Russell's ownership been so low? It was really shocking to me. 9% on Friday, Josh. 9% against Minnesota. I mean, I know that there were guys that were in some good spots, other point guards, but he's just going to dominate everything for this team in terms of usage. Nothing's going to hold him back here. The problem is this matchup against Utah sucks. Like Utah is one of few teams to me that I really don't love playing guys against. No. I guess the one advantage here is that Russell's price tag is affordable. Yeah. But I hate this spot. You know, Mike Conley, the Mike Conley backcourt. He might not be shooting well this season, but he's still a really good on-ball defender. And honestly, you can just sell out to stop D'Angelo Russell. It's a tough spot.
Yeah. Luckily for Mike Conley, D'Angelo Russell's defense should be the cure for what ails him.
Yeah, you would sure hope. He needs something, man.
Yeah.
He needs something.
I mean,
he's been a little better lately.
I like the Jazz side a lot more. I'm going to probably 0.77 FanDuel points per minute for Conley has been bad, but 6,800 on FanDuel, 6,200 on DK. I will be going there a little bit. I'm happy to get some Donovan Mitchell. I think Rudy Gobert for 8,300/7,600 looks pretty good considering what the Warriors are running out there at center. I don't get the sense that Draymond Green is going to be playing a ton of center for this Warriors team. At the minimum, Willie Cauley-Stein will be out there for half the game. So you could talk me into those guys. Don't really need much of the other dudes from Utah. I guess Willie Cauley-Stein at under 5K on both sites is a viable punt play. You know, Alec Burks is getting up there in price a little bit, but you know, he'll shoot. There's just not a ton here for me. It's Russell from the Warriors, a little bit of Willie Cauley-Stein, and then Gobert, Mitchell, Conley.
Yeah. You know, Conley with Donovan Mitchell on the floor this season, 177 minutes together.
Yeah.
0.75 fantasy points per minute.
It's bad.
20%. What's up?
That's bad.
Yeah, man, it's really bad. Because he's always been a +1 per minute guy, like for sure. 20% usage, 20% assist rate, really pedestrian numbers. Now that should be better than 0.75 fantasy points per minute, right?
Yeah.
But you know, so Mike Conley has played 269 minutes.
Nice.
And what's up?
You said 69. I said nice.
Oh, okay, sweet. 34% of those minutes have come without Donovan Mitchell. In those, he has ready for this, 36% usage rate, 0.94 fantasy points per minute, and still a 20% assist rate. But obviously, with Mitchell off the court, Conley's getting up a ton of shots. He's just not doing anything with them. I still think that he's in play here at 62. The price tag is cheap enough. I'm not a fan of his from a fantasy standpoint until things get corrected. And I don't think it's going to, given that Donovan, when's the last time he's played with somebody that really threatens to take a lot of opportunities away from him, other than Marc Gasol, who was never a particularly high usage guy anyway?
I was going to say never.
Right. I don't think he ever has. No. I really don't.
So Greg Oden.
Yeah, right. He goes to another team that plays down in pace, good in defense, very similar structure here. Of course, I'm talking about when Memphis was actually good. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, it's not that surprising to see Mike Conley with these type of numbers because he's never played with somebody that threatens to take the usage away from him.
Look, no matter how bad he has been, you can just look at this and see, oh, he's shooting 36% from 2 this season. And just be like, okay, well, unless he never plays basketball again, that number's going to come up. He's shooting 6% worse from the line, which I think is really interesting. He's been an 80% or more free throw shooter for like 10 straight seasons. He's at 78 right now. But 42% effective field goal percentage. That's 8% less than last year when he should be getting better looks, not worse. I think it's just cold. I think he's cold is really all there is to it.
Yeah,
and getting used to like his spot on the floor.
It is a lot chillier than Utah than Memphis. So
I mean, he played 20,000 minutes or something for one team. It probably takes a little bit of time to get your bearings calibrated.
I hear you, man. I hear you. 50% shooting from within 3 feet of the rim. That's not good. That should not be the case. 36% from 3 to 10 feet. He's shooting 33% from 3-point range. The mid-range, though, that from 10 to 16, he's shooting 27%. So, I mean, it's just, dude, get to the rim or take threes. Stop doing anything else. That's how I feel about it. He's getting, by the way, Josh, no shots within 3 feet of the basket, 8%. And then 3-point, he's shooting 44%. Just cut those mid-range garbage shots out altogether and things will change.
I was just about to say that. I have that up here from Cleaning the Glass. 16% shots at the rim, down from 24 last year.
Yeah.
maybe that really is the sign. He can't
That's
get
a
to
huge
he
difference.
can't get to the spots that he wants to.
Yeah,
But
and
is that him or is that Rudy Gobert?
What do you mean? That Rudy Gobert's clogging up the paint?
A little bit.
I mean, it's certainly a possibility. Marc Gasol was a big time elbow guy. You could sit him out there at the elbow. He led the league in elbow touches for like 6 straight years. So that could make sense, but I don't know how hard it would be for Gobert to clear out a little bit to let Conley get in there. But as we know, the most efficient shots are at the basket and from 3-point range, and players that only take those shots and very seldom take mid-range jumpers from a fantasy standpoint are just that much more appealing.
One thing to point out, no matter how bad Conley has been this season, they are plus 5.5 points per 100 possessions when he has been on the floor. Their starting lineup of Conley, Mitchell, O'Neal, Bogdanovich, Gobert is plus 11.5. So no matter how bad he is shooting as a team, they are still fantastic.
Still a great defender, man.
Yeah. Favorite Jazz player, and then we'll close this out with Clippers Raptors right up until the fucking 10:59 window, like we said.
It's going to be Donnie Mitchell. I think that price tag on Mitchell is still pretty reasonable too. So you're getting a discount on both of these guys coming up against, and I don't want to play them together. I think they really hurt each other. I think Mitchell really hurts Conley. But yeah, overall, this is a really bad Warriors team. And I think they still rank dead last in defensive rating this year. Yeah, dead last. Utah's first.
Yep.
So I give me Donnie Mitchell. What about you?
Honestly, it's probably Conley for me, just given the price tag. Mitchell, a close second. I just really like that savings. I think Conley rights the ship at some point in time. Does make me a little nervous that 20% of the people are already there, though.
Yeah, and that his usage is 20% with Mitchell on the floor, which he's playing like 70% of his minutes.
Doesn't help.
No.
Closing it out, Clippers and Raptors. At least we don't have to go over some of the Raptors rotation yet. 116.5 implied total for the Clips, 106 for the Raptors. We'll start on the Clippers side. Kawhi
Big time revenge game for Kawhi, bro. Big time.
Yeah, absolutely. 10.5 on FanDuel, 9,400 on DraftKings, 17.1 on Fantasy Draft. I like him more on FanDuel and Fantasy Draft, but 9,400 on DK, no problem with that whatsoever. You can talk me into a lot of dudes from the Clippers. Trez, Lou Will, Beverly, Jermichael Green as value, 3,700 on FanDuel. A little bit of Landry Shamet, even though he has been putrid from a fantasy perspective.
Terrible.
Lots to like here for the Clip Show.
Dude, Kawhi Leonard statistically, he's not just having the best season of his career, but it's not even close. I mean, that is how good he's been this year. And just a couple things to point out. I mean, he's averaging 11.6 potential assists per game this season. Okay. 11.6. Last year, he averaged 6. So essentially doubling those numbers. When you're looking at some of these important stats, like where are the opportunities coming from? In the pick and roll, he's averaging 12.5 pick and roll possessions per game as a ball handler. Last year, he averaged 6. He is towards the top of the league in pick and roll scoring, which is crazy. Yeah. Your fantasy value, Josh, goes through the roof when you operate heavily in the pick and roll as a ball handler. We know that with point guards. We know that with even guys that you don't have to be a point guard, but as long as you're handling the rock. Right now, Kawhi Leonard is averaging 12 points per game as a ball handler in the pick and roll, 43% frequency, basically the same as D'Angelo Russell and Kemba Walker. That's going to make him really, really, really appealing every single night, especially at this price point. I love him at this price. I don't care who it's against. Toronto on a back-to-back on the road. Yeah, I'm cool with it. What's up?
Jarrell Martin in chat spelled Kawhi, Siakam, and Van Vliet all incorrectly in one sentence, and somebody pointed it out, and I can't help but laugh. No, I love Kawhi today. Hard not to. Price tags look fine.
Not because of revenge either.
No, not at all. I don't think he is mad at Toronto at all for helping him win a championship and being completely nice to him the entire time, doing catering everything that he wanted to do.
Plus, does he seem like the type of guy that's vengeful towards anybody?
Certainly not the Raptors.
No, why would you? It was his decision to leave.
Yeah. He probably told them for most of the time, like, yo, I'm out too.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to have a lot here. We're not really projecting any ownership to Harrell or Lou Will, which I find kind of interesting. I think this is a pretty good spot to get them if they're not owned. I just want to have a lot of exposure to the Clippers. And then for the Raptors, Siakam, Van Vliet, 6,900 on FanDuel, 6,900 on DraftKings, $23 on Yahoo, one of my favorite plays today. I'll be going to Marc Gasol. I'll be going to a lot of Norm Powell, and I'll be going to a lot less Chris Boucher than the public.
Yeah, fortunately, we already discussed this whole thing at the top of the show, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. With Toronto, with the Clippers outside of Kawhi, I'm not really interested in much. But I never really have a problem getting the Siakam. He's just a massive usage player that now that Kyle Lowry's off the floor is going to be even more involved. And I mean, who would you say your favorite plays are from this game?
Van Vliet, Norm Powell, Kawhi.
Van Vliet, Norman Powell, and Kawhi. Okay. Yeah, I think so too. But I do still like, does Siakam carrying any ownership at all?
16 and 20.
16 and 20.
16 on FanDuel, 20 on DK.
I don't think that's that high. Yeah, I don't think that's all that bad. So I get quite a bit of interest there. Potential assist, just because I'm curious, for Pascal Siakam last night. 9, second on the team behind Van Vliet, who had 20. So yeah, Van Vliet. I honestly, you could make a good argument for Fred Van Vliet, for Pascal Siakam. Honestly, dude, even this might sound crazy, but I know Marc Gasol's been terrible, but the guy was on pace to play like 38 minutes until the bench went off yesterday. Yeah. I know it's a back-to-back, but at that price tag, I still don't even think it's insane to say, hey, if you're projecting him for big minutes, then he's not completely out of the question either.
No, 0.66 FanDuel points per minute has been atrocious, but Gasol, for the minutes that he could potentially be getting, 5,200 and 5,400, should be really in play.
Yeah, he's been terrible, no question. But he's also someone that can come up with a pretty big, well-rounded game at 5,400 with Noah Ibaka, and both of us not expecting Boucher to see the same minutes. Gasol could get the 36 minutes today, and then you're talking about a huge game.
Absolutely. Well, we got there. Tight window, but we got there. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, go listen to Lofty in 5 minutes with Manny coming up immediately after this. We've got tons of content coming up through the day. Here's the question. Let's put this in the comment section once this video ends. How many minutes does Chris Boucher play tonight? Put it in the comment section. Let's get your best guess. We'll see who can get closest. We'll talk about it again tomorrow.
I'll go 18. What's your guess? I'll go 18.
I'll go 20.
20. Okay. All right.
There we go. Thank you, guys. Lofty, anything else?
That's it, man. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with Manny Laura breaking down everything from week 10 and things to do for next weekend.
Things to do for next weekend. Check it out, guys. Talk to you later. Adios.